Welcome back to Decoding the Flow. I am your host, Drica Lobo, and today I am joined by artist Bea Salazar. Her work is this beautiful balance between architecture and nature, is structure and intuition. Her paintings and sculptural pieces feel both grounded and alive. And I really can't wait to explore the creative mind behind them. Bea, welcome to Decoding the Flow. I'm so happy to have you here. For people discovering you and discovering your work for the first time, who is Beatriz Salazar?
I mean, more than anything, I'm just a normal person who's looking to find out their purpose, I guess. I'm a native Angelino, so I was born and raised in LA who likes to be happy and learn and grow and, nothing out of the ordinary. But I think one of the main things that defines me is growth. I need to always be growing, or I won't be at ease, I guess.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
the perfect podcast because that's all we talk about here. It's growth and our creative minds and how we can bring all that we are into all that we do using
Yeah.
our creative consciousness. And I know that researching you, you spent years in architecture and real estate before becoming a full-time artist. And looking back, do you think you were always an artist who happened to work in architecture, or it was all the way around?
Yes, absolutely. I think the art is has been with me since the beginning, since I was a kid. Like in school, I would always do well in school because I had this artistic spin on everything that I did. Like if we had a project and I didn't really understand the say, the English or the reading side of the project, I always just my projects just looked good. I just always wowed the teachers with that aspect of it, and it's just always been a big part of me. But growing up, they don't push the idea of being an artist on you. It's kind of like this extra thing. Like
Yeah.
you can make a living being an good artist.
Yeah.
You have to do something legitimate. So,
Realistic.
so growing up when I was like 7 or 8, my parents were looking to buy a house. So we visited a lot of houses. I don't know why it's such a vivid time in my life, like 7 or 8 years old, to just be going to all these open houses and seeing these houses, and I just loved it. So I think as a kid, my mom told me, "You should be an architect because you loved it so much." And since I was good at art and math, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." And I just kind of was, in my head, since I was a little girl. And then as I got older, in high school, I kind of just kept gravitating more to art and I was really gifted, but it was still in my mind, but I want to be an architect, even though now looking back, I don't know if it did or if it was just in there so deep that I went that way. But looking back on it now, I think everything's kind of fallen into place and it kind of makes sense
Yeah.
that I went that route. But I did end up going to art school for undergrad. I went to Cal State LA because I didn't get into architecture. And then
That was
when I was
destiny.
yeah, when once I was in art school, I was like, all right, I gotta really get it together since I got rejected and I got straight A's the whole time. And then I applied for grad school and then I got in for grad school. But yeah, I mean, even in college, I used to do face painting at kids' parties.
Wow.
Yeah, to make money. And I would paint shoes on it, like those Tom's shoes. I would paint those on and sell them on Etsy. And I did pretty well even as a student. I always had a new car. But yeah, it always helped me. And even at that early stage, it was a way for me to build confidence in just putting myself out there and being entrepreneurial. I never thought about it like that until one time one of my professors told me like, "Wow, I really admire your entrepreneurial mentality." Wow, never,
That
you
is
know.
beautiful because a lot of people can underestimate an artist, but every artist, it needs to be an entrepreneur first
Yeah,
because you have to
absolutely.
sell. Have to sell, you need to meet people, you need to sell yourself, and selling yourself is very different than selling a product. Selling
Yes.
yourself in a good way just means because art is such a personal thing that comes from our soul, and maybe selling yourself, it might sound weird, but that's what I meant. It's just because it's from inside out that our creations come from that we need to
Mhm.
sell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I think with the whole face painting thing, I mean, for one, it's what the product that your creation is your level of talent or just what you put out. But in addition, there's just the whole aspect of you. And a lot of times the people are just gravitating to you.
Yeah.
Uh, like a lot of the people that I worked with early when I was doing that, like they just liked me. So they would refer me and call me back and they just liked my story of like what I was trying to do. And I think that in itself is like people relate to it. People are inspired. It just makes them feel good to know, wow, someone's trying to do this. Someone
Yeah. Yeah.
cares and is passionate. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it because if you're trying to sell something and it's not for them, it's
Not
not
gonna
for
work.
them. Yeah.
I'm very curious. Was there one defining moment that made you realize it was time to fully embrace art? When was the time that you gave up architecture path into art?
I think there there are a lot of gradual parts to it because coming out of architecture school, you're spending all this time as a student investing in your tuition and all this time really looking forward to like, this day where like, I'm finally going to have a real job. And when you do, at least I did, you're just like, I just want to make money. I have like a nice apartment and, not feel like a student. So there's just a lot of things. There wasn't the freedom at my job that I wanted. It wasn't as dynamic. It didn't suit my personality. It didn't pay how I expected. So there were just so many things that I just was like, this is not what I wanted. So I don't know what else to do. So I'm gonna leave. Uh, and luckily, because I speak Spanish and I'm in LA and there's like a booming construction industry, I figured I can easily pivot into construction. And I was so frustrated with the dynamic at my job that I need to find something and leave. And now that's one of the things I know you don't wanna do that too soon because then you're gonna just find yourself in a very similar situation where maybe you fix one element, but there's all the other elements. So, yeah, I ended up in construction and then there was just different parts that got fixed, but ultimately, I guess even now where I am, I'd say I feel I'm at 90% of everything that I want, but I'm still working stuff out. But it takes a lot of courage, I think, and a lot of
Yeah.
people think you're crazy for leaving, but it feels I think for me, being truly creative is I'm doing whatever I want. I'm not listening to a boss, I'm not listening to a client, and sometimes that's within parameters. I only have these materials or I only have these things to use or whatever, but it's really doing what I want.
What is that something that you found in art that
Mm.
architecture didn't provide you
Mhm,
besides this freedom in doing what you
mhm.
want?
I think it's expression, full expression, because I think
Mm.
in doing architecture, there is some expression in putting your preferences and like, we're going to use this tile or we're going to do this layout, but still is always for someone else and they're the decider. Whereas with art, you decide, you kind of just like let what you have here come to reality and, hopefully someone likes it and buy it.
It's the other way around because we do it first and then we let people get interested by I really believe it's by the energy that we're working on that gets outputted into someone who is interested, like an energy connection.
Yes, I 100 stand by that. And I mean, we briefly talked before we jumped on to recording. I've been very fortunate in having left my career and started doing art full time. So about a little over a year ago, I started taking on commercial commissions. So somehow I was approached by some art advisors who work for people that don't know, like an art advisor will work on a really big project. Say if they're either renovating or building like a brand new hotel or some offices or whatever. This is like a huge project where they have an architect and interior designer, like all of these team members. And because of the scale of the project, they actually have someone that all they do is buy art and choose art. So they work with the client for this. So I was approached by these advisors, and there's a bunch of different ones, but I started off with a few. And at first I thought, like, wow, this is so cool because it's, they normally buy really big pieces, etc. And they take their commission, and it's all very professional. So it's nice. It reminds me a lot of my role working in construction and architecture because it's a very similar dynamic. With time, I started to build on that a lot, and I just got constant commissions. And this last month, and I felt it kind of building where, they'll reach out, request pricing, and they'll give you like the project timeline. And I realized, like, I'm getting a lot for June because it's getting kind of scary. And then as the dates approach, and I realized like I basically have them back to back, and it's going to be kind of burnout ish. But
Yeah.
uh, I figured like I could do it, and you just have in mind like the financial reward. So you figure like, yeah, let's do it. And, I managed to do it, but by the end of it, I was really burned out. I think
Wow.
emotionally, I was just sad. Like, I don't even know why. I don't get sad. I have such a good life. I have this husband and my dogs, and we live by the beach. I work as an artist, but it was drained my soul
Yeah.
because I wasn't making new work. I think there was no expression. There was nothing coming from the heart. It was just like, I'm just remaking stuff that I already made. Oh, we like this piece we made. We want it at this scale. So it's nice if things, that came from my heart 2 years ago. But now they just don't feel relevant. And you have pressure of time. It was so different. And it became very obvious to me, like, that I need to remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I remember earlier this year, I bought a laser cutter with the intention of making smaller pieces that are more economical for normal people. It was an exciting thing for me to like, figure out this machine and be able to integrate it into my style of work. So it was just exciting, really different energy. And I remember at the beginning of this year when I was finally like figuring out how to do it at a larger scale and make these new pieces, I remember I specifically made these 3 pieces, and they each were really unique and interesting, and for me, they were just exciting. And when I listed those 3 pieces, they all sold through my own website pretty quickly, and it just kind of stuck with me that when they have a specific energy, people can feel it. Even if you're not trying to push it, they're just special and people can tell.
Yeah. The energy that you are putting into the work, that's what people are going to feel. It is not the day of the sale, it's the day that
Mhm.
you are actually painted. And notice this because I used to work under deadline, and I think that having a deadline and doing things the last minute, it gives me this push, and you just started being more creative because like you're saying you have to figure out how to do it under this deadline, but it's also you actually creating under stress. A really good stress is different. It's not a pressure. A really good
Mhm.
stress and when it is light and we still have room for intuition to come online. But when
Mhm.
it's too much pressure, you ended up creating something where the cortisol so high,
Yeah.
it loses the point of creation and being an artist.
Yeah, and how you feel after too.
Yeah. How was the discovery of your art style? I would love for you to
Uh,
describe for us.
my foundational part of my creative expression or creative process is sketching. I think maybe because I am a designer, like, it's always like, you gotta sketch first and put it on paper and draw it out and then go from there. I think some painters will just go and get a canvas and do the underpainting and that, but because mine has like a three-dimensional quality to it, the sketch is very important because then I take the sketch and then I will scale it and stuff. But the
You also
sketches.
build up in on top of your canvas. It does have a lot of texture to it. How would
Mhm.
you describe your work for people who are only listening and not watching on YouTube?
My work is three-dimensional, so I create three-dimensional wall art. And when I first started, I used to carve concrete while it was wet. So I would make these heavy-duty panels. I would mix concrete, and I would add some stuff so that it had time to before it would cure. And then I would pour it really thin, get it to like the perfect consistency, and then I would go in with like razor blades and X-Actos and then just draw into it and then carve out forms basically. But they're not like curved sculptures. They're kind of just like there's just two planes. There's the form and then the panel behind the form. And that was amazing. I loved it so much, but it's heavy, very heavy. I love to work big because I think it's that designer part of me that, like, I envision this in a space. Like, it is its own thing, but it has to go somewhere. I love to take up space. So
What a
eventually.
beautiful thing that is. Let's us all take that in and get inspired. Thank you for sharing. So, if somebody listening are interested in start working with art advisor, what do you think those art of advisors were draw to you? What is something that artists can do to start approaching advisors and work with them?
Yeah, I will give you my honest opinion. I think the art has well, for one, like, it goes project by project. So an art advisor will have a project and they'll have artists that they know of that they think like, oh, this artist works well with the style of this project. Like
Mm,
if it's beachy and you do beachy work, then it'll work. But more importantly, I think your work has to be kind of neutral because this goes in as a piece of decor. And
yeah.
I know a lot of artists that's kind of like, oh, but this is art. And, that's a whole other conversation. But being on the neutral side, you will have more success with repeated pieces. Whereas, if your work is really dynamic and has a subject to it, then they might get one project where it works and you
Yeah.
might sell one or two a year.
I can totally see that. And what I noticed is it's because you go to open houses and they are all abstract but neutral ish
Mhm.
in a way. And so you build up your portfolio and then you send out, or they reach out to you.
I didn't even know that they existed until they reached out to me. And once they did, I thought like, maybe I should reach out to other ones so that they know I exist. I have like a little booklet that I made and I spent
Awesome.
a month doing, but this is just 80-page book of a bunch of my stuff. And this is linked on my Instagram. I printed these in color and I sent them out to a bunch of art advisors and I didn't hear from any of them.
We never know.
But like the ones who think your work is a good fit for their project, they will reach out to you because
Yeah.
they're salespeople. So you're a product and they want to sell your product.
I had one advisor from San Diego. She works with hospitals and she reached out to me with a few different large projects. She commissioned or ordered prints. It is nice
Cool.
because then you start working with those people and you show, of course, a level of respecting deadlines and having a great communication skills. This is all important for them to so
Mhm.
they keep working with you and maybe telling other people about you as well.
I think having everything figured out as far as like your pricing,
Yeah.
being able to ship and knowing your pricing for shipping is very important. Like if they send you an inquiry for, hey, we saw this piece on your website. Because I also, another thing I have is on my Instagram and on my website, I have a link for a PDF that I update pretty frequently with all my available work. And before I had a lot of large pieces just available. Now I don't because I've been selling a lot of stuff, but those would be there. So if they needed a piece, they could just go click and see, okay, we have these pieces this size. And they would just reach out, hey, do you still have this piece? Once they did, I would send them like pricing for shipping, pricing for creating everything. I was doing concrete stuff at the beginning. And because I wanted to scale, I had to just completely stop doing concrete stuff.
Ah.
So now what I do is I make stuff out of foam substrate that's normally used for like showers. So like if you're gonna put tile in your shower and you don't, for whatever reason, want to use like the heavy cement board, this is the product that they use for that. So I carve that. I'll like draw on it and then I carve it by hand and then like, I coat and then paint and line paint. So the pieces are very light, but they look like the concrete pieces, maybe a little smoother, but yeah. The
Because you ended up using your knowledge and skills, probably from architecture, to figure out a way that will work
Mhm.
best for your collectors. This is beautiful. Like you
Yeah,
work
that's
around, right? You test,
yeah.
you probably have to made a few tests to get the same result that you probably would do with the concrete. So I really love artists who are curious and never settle for less than what we want. You are listening to Decoding the Flow with me, Drica Lobo. If this conversation is inspiring you, take a moment to follow the show and share it with someone who is ready to live more creatively. You can find more inspiration, art, and behind the scenes stories at dricalobo.com or my Instagram at dricaloboart. Now, let's take a deep breath and get back to the flow.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just like I have an idea and like in my mind it exists, and it's a lot of just trying to figure out how to make it into real life,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
play with different things.
You often say that you always sketch your pieces beforehand. I see a lot of structure in a way, and I really curious in what point does planning stop and intuition take over in your creative process?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say there's a definitive point. I The sketching is a foundational thing. But I go through waves where sometimes I'll get really busy and I don't sketch as much. Cause when I do sketch, I sketch like crazy. So, and that's kind of the flow state. I'll sit down and just kind of start drawing. And a lot of it is organic, but I have noticed that we like a grid. We like there to be vertical and horizontal guides. If you take them out, it can work, but whenever those are there, it grounds everything and it's a lot more appealing. I have noticed. The first few sketches will be kind of crappy.
It's
And then
normal.
once I get into a nice flow, then I start to get really good ones. And it's a lot of just sketch without thinking. And then when the sketch is done, you kind of just like, that looks good. What do I like about it? And there's always elements that I feel work really well. And sometimes it's as simple as the intersection. I'll show you on here, like the intersection of these lines
Mm,
that I really like. And I'll
yeah,
keep repeating that little moment over and over because it creates tension in the perfect place. So
I
stuff like
love
that.
that. I love
It's
that.
funny.
I'm the opposite. I barely sketchy, and when I do, it's a completely different. If I take a photo comparing my sketchy and the painting itself, it's crazy. I am probably the only one who can truly understand and see beyond what is true, what is the sketch me. Yeah, I usually have some idea in what I do, but I leave a lot space for intuition. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not because you get frustrated a lot easier because a lot of time you will start with a painting idea in mind. Towards the end, it is a completely new thing.
I think color, because your work is more focused on color,
Yeah.
and I think color allows for that because
Yeah.
you can play with it, where I kind of see my stuff as like the sketch and design stuff is almost like a two-dimensional canvas, and
Mhm.
then I go in and I play with the color within the spaces that I've made. Um, so it's a little different, but color is so powerful, and it's a whole world of its own.
Yeah. Yeah, I will have an idea of colors. I usually get all of my inspirations inside the flowers or birds color combinations, just nature because it's the perfect creation. And I would just take photos or I will see something that I like. I only plan my colors when it's a commission work. Then I will work a little extra on the sketches so I can present to my collector, but it's usually very intuitive, which is a beautiful thing, but like,
Mhm.
again, you can get frustrated. It happens. And
Yeah.
just to let it go and just trust the process. Let's talk a little bit about the inner journey. Every artist go through resistance or self-doubt. What has been your biggest creative challenge, if any?
Um, that's an interesting question. Well, because I think I use the term creative pretty loosely.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest
It doesn't have to be a specific, like whatever comes to mind. Yeah.
I think in general, it's just like confronting fear and like not being afraid of doing things. And it could be like with anything. I'll even get a new tool and I kind of sometimes will just let the tool sit there. Like I'll unbox it and just let it sit there and watch YouTube videos and just kind of like think about it before I like dive into using it. But I've gotten really good at just telling myself like I'm just going to do a little bit.
Mm,
And normally that's enough to get some juices flowing. And then next thing you know, you're fully in it. And then you're like, well, why would I stop now? I'm
yeah,
already doing it. So just kind of getting started by thinking, I'm just going to do a little bit to prepare.
I love that.
It's been very helpful.
Yeah. There's so many different facets of resistance, but the best explanation that I came to the realization is that resistance is a friction from where you are to where you want to go, but you've never done it before. So that is a
Hmm.
friction that we call fear, maybe the fear of unknown. But if we call friction, it's less heavy. I feel like it, at least for me. I don't know if you agree with
Hmm.
that. If I call something that I feeling fear, I will stop. I will get in freeze mode and I won't do it. I'll procrastinate for days. And it's
Hmm.
insane because the more you procrastinate, the more you get anxious. The more anxious you get, the less that you do it. So when I start talking about resistance as this friction between where I am to where I want to go, it almost like becomes instantly light. If I've never done it before, of course I'm gonna have a friction. I'm just gonna do it and see how it feels. Once I do
Hmm.
it once, I feel normal. To do it until feels normal.
I think of resistance as like not being an acceptance.
Mm,
That's what to me resistance feels like.
that
Not
is a
not
very beautiful way. Yeah, I like that.
I
Not
think because we
fully in acceptancy.
because a lot of times we want like something has to be either good or bad.
Mm, so true.
So I think once we like just say like, well, it's not good or bad. It's just it is whatever it is.
It's
Whether
just this.
I'm either thinking it's bad or I'm thinking it's good. That's just my perspective. But like
Yeah.
just allowing it to be and then accepting it.
That is
I think
so true.
I think with the friction, I imagine friction to be more of like a gradual thing, where I view fear as more of like just like
It's a
once
little
you just
stronger. Yeah.
like you just kind of like instantaneously like okay, like I saw this on a podcast or some reel or something where someone said like when they have a fear, like they always think like okay, we're like I'm avoiding the imagining the worst case scenario. And you just like right away, like, all right, so worst case scenario, you know, I'll get hit by a car and da 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 da. And you just kind of run through like the possibilities of worst case scenario and you realize like it's not very likely and it's not even
Yeah.
that bad. So
Yeah.
what am I afraid of?
Yeah.
But I think it's more of a quickness.
Yeah. I've heard that analogy of thinking about the worst case scenarios. And then I stop it for a little bit because I start focusing on what is the best case scenario. I kind of switch the script a little bit, but it is, if you are really fearful, it is really good not only to meditate on the worst case scenario, but to write it down because you see you become resourceful. And then it's like, but that person can help me. But then I can talk about this with this friend. But then I can ask for help, right? We
Yeah.
realize that we're not alone. We are so resourceful.
Or
Yeah.
sometimes too, writing down worst case scenario, you like realize how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Because while it's in our brain, we don't measure the size of the thing. That's why writing it down, it kind of
Mhm.
becomes more obvious.
Yeah.
It becomes like it's almost like you putting the size of the problem in written words. In your
Mhm.
mind, it feels like it's accumulating one thing to another, one thing because it never stops. And then
Yeah.
you go from one problem to another, and then you don't kind of see it as a linear thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I love writing down when I have a problem. I have four different personalities when I'm writing. I have my higher self, I have my lower self, and I talk to each other because we do have those different facets inside ourselves.
Mhm.
And once you become conscious of which one that you wanted to bring online, the Drica who is recording a podcast, the higher self. So
Yeah.
journal, it's always like that. Talking to myself or talking to the creator. I love talking to the creator. I don't know what you believe in, but we can use any other name for a higher power. All right. We talk about creative consciousness is when we not only realize that we are here to create life, not just in work, but life instead of reacting to life, but when we embody that power that's within us. And that's why I love flow states. When we are in flow states, we are fully in a moment immersed into this connection between the visible world and the invisible worlds. You mentioned flow states before. Can you tell us if there was a moment you could describe how flow felt in your body? Or if you do have any rituals that will facilitate flow to enter?
Um, I understand flow to be like where you're just very present with what you're doing. I connect flow a lot with my sketching. I know I get into flow with sketching, like not right away, but like I was telling you, like, I got to get a few out and then it starts to get good. And then also with painting patterns. So in a lot of my newer pieces that have multicolored areas, I do a few little pockets with patterns where I either do like lines or I do checkers and things like that. So when I'm doing all these like intricate little things and they're repetitive, it's not like I'm painting a face or anything. It's just like box, 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 but it's like really clean little edges. I also get into a flow state with that. And it's like trance like. It's really fun.
It is, yeah.
One thing though that I noticed that it kind of caught me off guard was that the other day I was doing a puzzle and I felt like that with the puzzle
Oh,
where
wow.
you're just kind of like looking and like, I don't know, it was kind of trippy, but it
That's
had that
awesome.
similar feeling of
Yeah,
doing.
the flow states, the best way to describe, you have to be fully focused and fully present in what you're doing, but it does need to be slightly challenged, a little bit more challenged than your skills. So that's why being present, it's almost a requirement because of that tiny little bit of a challenge, that's what's going to make you be in the
Mhm.
present moment. And you don't have that inner chatter. We don't have like things like it is good or it's not good. The inner critic
Mhm.
falls off the wagon. You have this feedback loop that tells you what is next. So that's why
Mhm.
it just feels so good.
Yeah. I know you're into working out a lot and I do a decent amount of working out, but for a while I was really into lifting weights.
Yeah.
And you kind of, you think about whatever when you're lifting weights because it's just kind of like on autopilot. But I, from time to time, will get into jump roping. And with jump roping, you can't do that. You have to
Yeah.
be like
Present.
on
Yeah.
because jump rope. I don't know. I haven't done, I just read an article the other day about that it's almost like this trance thing with the jump roping, but I got to try it with that in mind because I haven't done it with that in mind. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, working out did definitely get me into the flow states too, but I usually cannot be listening to anything and the workout to have a better response in you, you have to have a mind muscle connection. So
Hmm.
when you set, it's almost autopilot. But once you aware that you need to be thinking about the muscle while you're working out, it's
Hmm.
crazy, but the results comes a lot quickly. And I test this in
Mm.
my body because it's the mind muscle connection, just like everything else in our body. So when you are working out, you think about the muscle getting stronger. That
Yeah.
specific muscle, of course, that you're working on it. It seems weird, but trust me.
No, that makes sense. It totally makes sense. I feel like I do that sometimes when I walk up a hill. Like I
Yeah.
think about my butt, you know,
Yeah. There's this
working.
neuroscience. I love her. She always talks about that when on Thanksgiving, when she's eating a lot, she put the intention that whatever she eats, it's going to go to her glutes because whatever we believe, that's what is going to happen.
I think that's the whole idea behind saying grace before a meal is that
Yeah.
you're putting an intention into what it means to be eating it and what it will bring. Uh,
Well, Emily on the Brain. That's her podcast. She's awesome.
okay.
Okay, we almost done here, but we have a quick fire. I've never done this. You are my first guest that we're gonna do it. I'm gonna ask a few quick questions, this on that, and whatever comes first, you can just reply. Okay? Let's call
Okay.
this the quick flow. Coffee or tea,
Coffee. Feels
ocean or
guilty.
mountains,
Up mountain,
morning or night,
morning,
music or silence while creating.
night.
One word that defines your work.
I think graceful.
One artist or someone you admire that everybody should know.
I think this is someone everybody does know, but I don't think they think about him in the way is Walt Disney.
Mhm. Oh, I love it. Love that answer. What is inspiring you right now at this period of your life?
Excitement, like maintaining excitement.
Love it. was so
Yeah.
good. Thank you so much for sharing. Bea, what do you hope people feel when they leave with one of your art pieces at home or at their business?
Inspiration. I think it for me, inspiration is like the ultimate feeling, and it's like contagious.
Yeah.
It's my
Ripple.
favorite.
It ripples out.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. I have
Mhm.
one last question. If someone listening today feels sort of disconnected from their creative practice, what is one small step they could take this week?
Um, I think just sitting with a pencil and paper and just do something and do it over and over. I think a lot of times when I was in art school, you get so excited about making stuff. You see something and you want to recreate it, especially early in your career or early as an artist. Like you don't really know what your style is or your thing. So you just see stuff, recreate it, see other stuff, recreate it. But to really understand what's coming out of you, I think it's like just sit there with a pencil or colors if you feel strong about color and like just make and make over and over and over because you'll see patterns
Yeah,
and I think that's what is wanting to come out because, we live in a like a Instagram, Pinterest world where we just see so much and like we don't know where to go, what it's just like overconsumption. It's
I
loud,
agree.
confusing noise. So just silencing and just like let your hand move.
I love how you say what needs to come out because that's exactly the term that I use as well, which is true,
Mhm.
right? What it needs to come out. What is your body asking you? Right? What is
Yeah.
there that needs to be expressed? All
Just
right.
yeah.
Bea, let us know where people can find you.
I'm on Instagram under Bea___ Salazar, SALAZAR_art. Or you can just go to my website, which is just Beatrice Salazar.
Beautiful. I'll add everything in the show notes. Is there anything that you're working on that you'd like to share?
I think right now I'm in a strong creation phase where I'm going to be doing some new stuff. I've done all abstract, so I'm going into flowers.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, so, you'll be seeing some flowers soon, which it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's a big deal
It
to go
is.
from, like
It is.
eh
I can't wait to see this transition for you. Thank you so much, Bea. If you are listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube, don't forget to leave your biggest takeaway in the comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you.